It's time, folks, to talk about the 2003 The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'm going to bring you this review from an actual farm because I thought it was only fitting considering the movie we're going to talk about. But before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Click on the little notification bell. That way every time I upload a video, you'll be notified and you can see what in the hell I got going on over here. Today we're going to talk about the 2003 Platinum Dunes remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I just did the original Tobe Hooper 1974 classic the other day. Today we're going to talk about the Platinum Dunes remake, and then I'm going to have a review out shortly by Sunday for the brand new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that dropped on Netflix on Friday. And I'm excited about watching it. It's a direct sequel to the original film. They're going all Halloween 2018 on us, so we'll see how that one is. But we're talking about the Platinum Dunes remake today. Now, Michael Bay around 2001 created his production company, Platinum Dunes, and the idea was, with Andrew Form and Brad Fuller, to hire interesting directors that have done music videos or commercials and make lower budgeted films, at least compared to what Michael Bay was doing at that time. Michael Bay was doing $100 million blockbuster movies at that time, and their idea was to make movies between like $5 and under $20 million. That was their idea. Right around this time, the rights for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake were up, and they got a hold of them, took them to New Line, and they were off and running. Now, interesting enough, to get interest in this film, Michael Bay shot that that famous teaser trailer that was played in theaters. I saw it in theaters. Just a black screen. You can hear some woman running around and doors slamming and a chainsaw. It's a fabulous teaser trailer. Michael Bay shot that to get interest in the movie, and it worked. Now, like I said, they were looking to hire music video directors and commercial directors. Well, that's what happened here. Marcus Nispel they hired, and he'd only ever done commercials and music videos up until this point, and they liked his take on it, and they hired him. And funny enough, his cinematographer that's worked with him for years on music videos and commercials was none other than Daniel Pearl. Well, Daniel Pearl was the same cinematographer that shot Tobe Hooper's original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he said yes when Marcus asked him without even thinking about it. And I watched a documentary last night. I have this on Blu-ray, and I'd seen the documentary before, but it's been years, so I just rewatched it after I got done watching the film. And he said, I said yes without thinking about it. I got off the phone with Marcus, and I'm sitting there going, shit, I told everybody I'd never do another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. But he embraced it, and he went in and worked with his friend Marcus Nispel, and they created this film. Now, this film came out October 17th of 2003. It's rated R. Well, they did have to do some trimming to get an R rating. It's an hour and 38 minutes long, had a budget of $9.5 million, so considerably more than Tobe Hooper, but not a huge budget by any means at that time. And it was a surprise hit that October. I saw it opening weekend with my friends. It made $80.5 million in America and 107 worldwide, so this was a huge hit for New Line. And Platinum Dunes out of the gate, and they went on to do Amityville Horror, the Hitcher remake, the Purge movies, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, the Friday the 13th remake, so on and so forth. Now, cast-wise, we got Eric Balfour as Kemper. He is the boyfriend of Erin, who's played by Jessica Biel. Jonathan Tucker plays Morgan. He's one of the 5 friends in this van. Mike Vogel plays Andy. Erica Learson plays Pepper. She's a hitchhiker they picked up like within a day or so of their trip to Dallas. They're going to see Leonard Skinner in concert. That's one of the differences in this film. And when we meet them, Andy and Pepper are already making out in the back of the van when we're introduced to our characters. Andrew Byronowski plays Leatherface, and the great Arlie Ermey plays Sheriff Hoyt in this film. Now, I'm not going to go through the plot. This is basically the same template as the original film, although they do change how things take place quite a bit, but it is the same template as the original film, but they do things differently, which is to the film's bonus. Actually, it works in its favor. Instead of they didn't ape Tobe Hooper and Daniel Pearl style from the original. They didn't go cinema verite on us. They didn't try to do the gritty grindhouse look. It's much more cinematic, much more slick. There's much more slick shots during the film, and it's definitely gorier. In the original film, it's not very gory. We do see blood, obviously, on Franklin. We see some blood splatter on the Leatherface when he's chainsawing Franklin in the wheelchair, and obviously when Sally's running away, we see the blood when the hitchhiker is slicing her back with the shaving razor. But that's it. There's not a whole lot of gore in that film. This film, they definitely upped the gore factor. But they also change it out, not just style. I think this is a much more commercial film. Not to say that it's sanitized, because I don't think that's true. I think it's a pretty hardcore, hard R slasher film. I think it's more accessible to mainstream audiences than the original film, because the original film's so odd, it's so insane, especially the second half, especially the dinner scene, which they don't even try to replicate that here, which is another bonus for this film. It would have been easy for them just to try to recreate scenes from the original. They don't do that here. The only scene really recreated from the original film is when Leatherface kills Kemper, although it happens differently, and then drags him behind the door and slams the door shut. We get the door shut scene, but it's just done a little differently. That's really the only scene they try to recreate. We do pick up a hitch. These are 5 U's, as John Larroquette, who is back here for narration in the beginning and the end of the film, because the film starts a little differently with black and white police footage and ends with black and white police footage. That's what bookends our films, along with John Larroquette's narration. They do pick up a hitchhiker, but it's a girl that we come to find out during the film that escaped this lunatic family, and the family is definitely much larger in this film. The original film was just 3 people: the cook, Leatherface, and the hitchhiker. In this film, we got a lot of folks that are part of this fucked up family, but the hitchhiker got away, and she goes crazy in the back of her van in the first 10 minutes and puts a gun in her mouth and blows her brains out. And a cool shot that starts on our 5 youths that are screaming, and the camera pulls back through the hole in the chick's head and out the back window and keeps pulling away. It's a great shot. I love how they pulled it off. They showed in one of the documentaries how they pulled it off. It's a really cool shot. Like I said, it's a lot more slick, this film, and a lot more cinematic, and they go for some more cool shots. I mean, obviously, Tobe Hooper didn't have the budget to try to pull any of this shit off back then, or nor did the technology to do it. They shot on 16 millimeter, a lot of handheld. And he did great with what they had to do, but in this film, it's much more prettier to look at. The lighting is much more prettier. Definitely nicely done by Daniel Pearl and Marcus Nispel. As a matter of fact, this is probably my most favorite directed film by Marcus Nispel, along with Friday the 13th. I didn't care for his Pathfinder film. That doesn't matter. The other bonus for this film, besides, I think, Andrew Bryanowski's portrayal of Leatherface is different than Gunnar Hansen's. He's much more aggressive, much more just that killer instinct. He doesn't care. He's like a freight train. Where in the original, yes, Gunnar Hansen was a stone cold killer. He was played a lot more childlike. In this film, he has a little bit of that, but he's definitely much more aggressive, can think for himself, although he does follow orders from Mother and Sheriff Hoyt. But he's definitely more of a beast of a man than Gunnar Hansen was. Not that Gunnar Hansen, again, wasn't intimidating and crazy as hell. I just think Andrew Bryan went in a little bit of a different direction, much more aggressive, in-your-face direction. And I love his portrayal here as Leatherface. He's great. The other ace in the hole in this film is R. Lee Ermey. He is fantastic as Sheriff Hoyt, who probably isn't a real sheriff. And as a matter of fact, it's one thing that kind of pisses me off. When he has the kids back at the van for the second time, when Aaron's there and Pepper's there and Morgan's there, by about 5 minutes into the conversation, you know this guy isn't a real cop. He probably killed the sheriff, took his uniform and his car, and is pretending to be the sheriff in this little podunk little area of Texas where there's not a lot of people that live, except for apparently this fucked up family. There's no way I would have hung around listening to this asshole, because he's definitely not a cop. And they have more, especially the girls, have opportunities to get away. Morgan, not so much. But, you know, definitely at some point you got to realize this guy's no freaking cop, even for a small little area. I grew up in a little area, and you knew who a real cop was from not a real cop, and this guy is just out of his freaking mind, but he's awesome at it, and he has some great dialogue, and he rewrote a lot of his lines, like he did on a lot of the films R. Lee Ermey was in, God rest his soul. And he's fantastic here. He's an ace in the hole. Now, like I said, the family's way bigger. We have the mother who runs the gas station this one instead of the guy from the original who was a cook. And we have Leatherface, we got Sheriff Hoyt, we have this old man in a wheelchair with no legs who seems not to have any relation. I don't know if any of these people are related or they just found each other. And then you got these 2 other women. You have this little kid and these 2 other women that live in this trailer. I think there's too many members of this family. They should just concentrate on the main house. But they kind of get into this kidnapping, child abduction that happened with the girl they picked up. Aaron finds pictures of her and her whole family, and there's a baby, and she realizes in the trailer that one woman is taking care of this baby, and she realizes it's the same baby from the picture. And at the end, Aaron kind of gets her revenge. She steals the baby back, kills Sheriff Hoyt. She cut the arm off of Leatherface in this meatpacking plant, which is a pretty cool scene. She cuts it off with a meat cleaver. And at the end, we get the final shots of Leatherface ends up killing this police officer is doing this black and white film about the police or the crime scene at the end of the film. That's how the film ends, with John Larroquette's narration. I have some nitpicks. There's a few gaps in logic, but overall, I don't want to there's a few things, especially like not listening to the sheriff, especially after some of the shit he says and the way he acts. He's definitely no cop. And he's definitely out of his freaking mind. Obviously, people trespass on other people's property, just like they did in the first one. In this one, they try to make it a little bit more organic, but people still just go into people's houses and start touching shit. It's like, who the hell does this? Who does this? You're on a string. I know it's the 70s. Things were a little different back then. But still, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're lucky you didn't get a shotgun shoved in your face and your head blown off for just doing shit like that. But still, at the end of the day, there's some nitpicks here. I don't think it's a perfect film. I don't think it's as good as the original, but considering how I remember when I heard they were going to remake it, I was even down on this. And I remember just getting a little bit of backlash from the horror community. Like, how dare you remake the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Obviously, this is 4 years before Rob Zombie remade Halloween. But it turned out pretty freaking good, and it's a damn solid remake. And I even like Texas Chainsaw the beginning. The prequel they made after this was a huge success. But yeah, it's a damn solid sequel with a pretty good cast. They changed things up enough to make it different. They don't try just to recreate scenes. Like, thank God they didn't try to recreate the dinner scene from the original, because it wouldn't have worked, and you were just going to set yourself up for failure, because we just would have compared you to the original film. Because that Tobe Hooper, goddamn, I don't know what he did on that film, but the madness of the shoot, the shittiness of the shoot, because supposedly it was hell to shoot, that dinner scene is insanity on display, and it's beautiful, and it's just crazy. It makes you feel uncomfortable, and to try to recreate that in 2003 in a more slickly made movie wasn't going to work. So I'm glad they avoided that, and they changed things up enough to keep it fresh while also just adhering to the same template as the original. So props for them for pulling this off. It's a solid remake, and I think this is more rewatchable one. I love the original. It's definitely a classic, and it's better than this one. But this one's a damn solid movie, but it's more rewatchable. I think it's just more fun to watch, although we do see some sick shit. But yeah, overall, a really solid remake. I would give this one an 8.75 out of 10. I like it a lot, and watching it last night, it holds up pretty damn well, although like I said, there's still some negatives. But overall, it's a very solid film. So yeah, 8.75 out of 10 for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. What are your thoughts on this film? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. Great. Would appreciate that. Before I go, the Morgan scene when he gets hung up and Chainsaw's going to bring his chainsaw between his legs, they actually shot that, and his intestines falling out and blood everywhere, but they cut that or they were getting an X rating. So that was what they had to cut to get an R rating. But other than that, I hope you're all doing well out there. I'll be back soon with the brand new Texas Chainsaw Massacre dropping on Netflix on Friday, or today, because it's Friday today. But until then, bye.